I had no plan. I didn't design anything. I didn't even sketch out a database. I just opened up Cursor AI, spun up a project, and just started vibe coding. Pure instinct, no structure, just to see where it would go. And somehow I ended up building a working admin panel in only like 3 hours. Now, don't get me wrong, it's messy and the code kind of sucks, but it works. In this video, I'm gonna go through how I created the product split between two things, which I'm calling the planning phase and the vibe coding phase. Both of these combined, I was able to get a working product, and it's pretty sweet. I really think it's a pretty cool product. If you're new to the channel, I'm Eric Roby, a software engineer with over 10 years of experience, and I've helped over 100,000 developers learn and grow within their craft. So let's go ahead and jump into the video. So here's the admin login page where we can say we are an admin and the password is string. And here we can see it. If you click total users, it's going to tell you all the users, active sessions, all the active sessions. It tells us the system is online because it made a database query call. And it's going to tell us all of our recent activity, which right now we don't have any recent activity because I just restarted the product. But for example, if we changed coding with Roby 3's name to 4, and I say save, and then I come up here and say refresh, we now have a new recent activity, which was made by this user of admin, updated user coding with Roby 3 username from coding with Roby 3 to coding with Roby 4. And this was the time it did it. And it's going to show us all the users where we can create new users right here. We can delete users only if they're not a super user, and we can edit them. And it's going to tell us all the active sessions. So for example, if we come over here and I say I want to log in as coding with Roby 1, and I believe the password is also string, and I say execute, we get a token. If we come back over here and we refresh, we now have 2 active sessions. And what's cool is the user will lose their active session rights, I think if they're inactive for like 3 to 5 minutes, something like that. So it's really cool stuff. And total users, if we create a new user called coding with Roby 5, and I say create, we can see, and we refresh, and now it goes up to 5. I mean, this is really solid. I mean, this is really solid stuff. Oh, and it has search. You can say coding with Roby 5, and it zooms down. Both of these, I think. Coding, yeah, look at that. It has real-time search. Like, this was all done in 3 hours using vibe coding. However, there is a catch. The catch is the code kind of sucks. I've kind of already mentioned that, but we're going to go through that. So as you can see, just from the URL itself, it says /admin, and then it says the super user token. Probably shouldn't just have that sitting there. We probably should have that in some kind of a header authorization bearer token. But regardless, this was a wicked start. Now, if we're looking through the code on how this happens, we can see that it created an Olympic. It created an app which has all of our code. It created a .ignore. And the only thing that I created beforehand was this planning and tasks file. Now, a planning file is kind of like a high level of all the tech that should be used to create the application. And then the tasks is a step-by-step way for the LLM to be able to create the product. So right here, we can see my very first message to the LLM. I am planning to create a admin panel application for my FastAPI app. I want to use SQLite 3 and SQL Alchemy for the database. I need your help with planning the high-level direction and initial tasks, creating me a planning.md and tasks.md file. And then I say what the planning and tasks are. It created that, and then from then on, I just vibe coded. Or I just vibed. I just started saying and asking what I wanted it to do. And I didn't change any code myself. And I was about to go ahead and change all the code to make it professional. But I thought this would be a great video just to see what is possible with vibe coding. And then kind of look at the stuff that's kind of going incorrect with it. Now, we already kind of saw that the query param in the admin endpoint was a bad practice. We don't want to do that. We'd want to change that in a professional application. But the other thing that we can see is if we actually start this back up again, and we go in here, we can see the system failed now, but that's because I turned off the application. But if we come back in here and we look at the inspect and we look at the network and refresh, we can see that it's using Tailwind right here. And then we have our stats, which is going from API v1 stats, session, API v1 sessions, and API v1 activity. That's all it's using, are those 3 endpoints. If we look at our code though, it created us a ton of stuff. Starting with here in our main, we are getting this from our settings file, which is, it's pretty cool. We have our create database, we have our cores middleware, which just says pretty much accept everything. We create our Jinja and our static files and our CSS, and we add all of our routers. But what we can tell here is this verify token. So I added this comment. This verify token doesn't get used. This admin panel, it says check the token for a query param. If not in the query param, check the authorization header. Why would you have both? We just want to remove the query param and just put it in the authorization. And then it also says, if no token was found on either, redirect them back to just slash. Okay, that's fine. But this is where it gets kind of wild. Right here, it's telling us db equals next get db. The only reason we have to do that right here is because up here, we're not using any type of dependency injection. Like we would want to say depends get new database. We're not using any kind of dependency injection. So it didn't do dependency injection. It just says grab the next DB, which is fine. It's just not a good practice. And then we're using this verify token right here, which is the function from above that I just said was a duplicate because we actually have this in our auth file over here in our API, which I'll show you in a second. But it's kind of like, why'd they create duplicate code? And then lastly, we have both of these exceptions returning the exact same thing, except for this has a small print statement inside. Again, another not good example of what we should even be doing here. At this point, I'm kind of like, if we're going to be throwing the same exception, then probably just remove all of this since we're not doing anything with it and just leave this block of code as the only, exception needed for the application unless we wanted to add something inside here. But without adding anything inside there, it's just kind of more duplicate code. If we go into the schemas now, and this actually isn't that bad. We have all of the user bases. We have the user create, user update, user in DB base. We have everything that we'd want right there, which is really nice. It did the schemas really good. If we go into the models, this is where some are good, some are bad. But what I really like that it did was this right here. What it's saying is for the created at and the updated at, let SQL handle it. And that's what this is doing right here. The server default function now and the on update function now. This is the SQL itself or SQL Alchemy handling it. We aren't handling it by code. We're making sure the database handles that. But what I think is interesting is in session and in activity, it doesn't do that. It does something completely different, which I find very odd. Like for example, in our session activity, we have this default date time where this is deprecated. So we'd have to go through and fix that. And also the same thing in activity. It's using a deprecated Python function, UTC now, where it knows that we could just use this. So I'm confused to why it wanted to do that anyway. But outside of that, everything was set up pretty well in the model standpoint based on the planning and tasks MD that we gave it. Inside our database, this is pretty straightforward, nothing bad. It's setting up SQLite correctly. And then our core, we have this security.py file where you can see I dropped a message right here, entire file not being used. We have all of this in our auth file. Not sure why they added that in here. We have our dependencies, which is decent. It has a lot of our dependencies that we need for our product. So we have our get current user, get current super user, not bad. I kind of like how it did that, using some unused imports, but that's okay. And then our config, we have our class settings, and this is where we're using our FastAPI panel. We're naming it. We're saying what the prefix of the APIs are, SQLite 3 directory. It gave us just an empty secret for our JWTs, where we can add anything we want inside there. Now, this is interesting. This access token expires in 30. That's because in code, it says to use 15 minutes. We'll kind of go through that in a little bit. But overall, not horrible, but odd. And if we look at the APIs itself, this API endpoint is how we can delete users and get users. Not that bad. Outside again, it's using some deprecated UTC nows, but nothing horrible. Our stats is where we are getting certain pieces of information. Again, not horrible. It loves using this deprecated function, which we'd have to go through and fix. This is the health check, which is going to say online or failed. It's going to do it right here. We're executing this query. We're seeing if this is the return. If that's when we get a green mark and says online. If we get this, that's when the application fails. And overall, I was pleasantly surprised with a lot of this. Now, a lot of this we would need to update. Right now, this app is not very maintainable, and I'll show you why in a little bit. But overall, it actually did pretty well in the couple hours of vibe coding. This is where it gets kind of weird. For the router.stats, I asked it to make sure that if a user is inactive, to remove them from an active session. And its solution was to use background tasks, which is fine, I suppose. It was kind of odd to use background tasks. So when it's fetching the stats, once it returns the stats in the background, it's going to remove the session. But you could hypothetically get the response that the session is okay before it deleted the inactive session. So like it might not always be right. Remove sessions that have been inactive for more than an hour. Okay, that's fine, I suppose. But overall, not horrible. It does do some duplications of things, but overall, it's not bad for a first try. It's something that just gets you off the ground and moving. Sessions, again, right here is doing some more background tasks to remove the sessions. But again, I would say it's actually not that bad first round. Where it started getting iffy was this auth, and that's because it stopped using, it's not using this .access expire token, it's just setting it to 15, which I thought was kind of goofy because it is using it in some other areas. But what it's also doing, which is kind of goofy, is it's not using any kind of deps files. So here in our core.dependencies, we have this get current user, and this get current user, it wants to recreate them in certain areas. And then also it wants to not use certain items. Like it has its own schemas right here. Instead of putting that in the schemas file, it has it in the auth.py file. We're using the OAuth password bearer token, but we're not using the default. We're using some goofy thing, which makes the locks not work on Swagger. There's just some differences definitely within this product that you would probably not see in a professional app, even though the code is working correctly. And like I said, overall, I thought it was a pretty good start to everything. I mean, I got it working in a couple hours. The templates are wild. I mean, this is a funny one. Login is using Bootstrap for some reason. So right here, we can see that it's using Bootstrap. While inside our index, we're using Tailwind. And then we're even asking for it to use our CSS packages that we created. But it also wants to import its own CSS, which I thought was very odd. But again, like it got what we needed working. Now, could there absolutely be errors in here? Yes. I think that's what I'm going to ask you guys to do. I think it's going to be a fun exercise. If we kind of go through this product and just see what went wrong. Where are security issues? Where are security risks? I might even go through this in a future video of showing all the security risks that might have happened. But this is really, really cool stuff. I mean, it was able to create me, without me doing anything, 626 lines of code, but then it's also doing some random stuff at the bottom of some of these files. The login's kind of goofy. It's doing the same thing. We're using Bootstrap, but we're not importing the CSS files, but instead we're adding stuff right here. It's just doing some crazy stuff. But at the end of the day, it was working. So I could see a world where people think vibe coding is possible, right? Because it can create you somewhat of a product. I had to use a little bit of my technical experience to get it going. I used all just vibe coding, but since I'm technical, I was able to kind of ask questions that led to solutions. But I could definitely see why people think they can create products without being a coder. Now, I bet this product could be hacked. I bet this product cannot scale very well due to these templates. If someone tried right now to scale this application to now have a real app with this login page, this admin page, they'd have a difficult time unless they just create, thousands of files. These Jinja templates, they all start with the exact same thing. We're not using any kind of implementation to reuse code. It's just not very clean at all. Code kind of sucks. I'm going to keep going back to that. The code really sucks, but it works. And I think that's where vibe coding is getting its information. It's where it's getting its name from. I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments below. Feel free to check out the code. I'll drop the link somewhere. And if you find errors with the code, I would love to see those in the comments also. So go ahead and try it out and want to know what you guys think of vibe coding. I want to see what you guys think of vibe coding. So let's start with that. All right. I'll see you in the next video.